Gale Breath is an attunement that's certainly had its ups and downs over the past 3 months, but what exactly is it that's changed about Gale? Hi, I'm Spiders, a top 250 Gale main, and in this video, I'll be covering every single change that Gale Breath has undergone in the past 3 months. Let's get into it. Okay, so starting it off in September 22, we had a small change which really only affects Wind Passage on Gale. Wind Passage now keeps its momentum after casting, which really only affects Jet Striker as far as I can tell. Small change, but nice for Gale Jet Striker users. The following week also had a pretty small Wind Gun buff. Besides that, there was also a Windblade buff, which is nice for ganks, and also a Haunted Gale bug fix. At the time, this bug fix didn't really matter since nobody used Haunted Gale, but now after Spectre Path has been released, this was pretty impactful, so good to know. Before the bug fix on this patch, Haunted Gale only worked on Wind Carve, Astral Wind, Gale, and Wind Passage, so all the other Gale launches besides these 4 did not work at all with Haunted Gale, so actually a pretty impactful and underrated change. In the next week in first balance change of November, there was a small bug fix for Astral Wind, with its effects showing through Tacet. Pretty small change because it only impacts like the 2 Tacet users, but nice to have, I guess. However, 2 weeks after this came a very big change. The Hero Blade of Wind no longer guard breaks with its crit, instead just doing posture damage. This was super impactful since having a ranged crit with the Hero Blade of Wind was something super strong and unique to Gale. The supposedly heavy posture damage is not enough to make up for this whatsoever, and this change was pretty much the nail in the coffin for the Gale Hero Blade crit. The week after that removed the share cooldown between Gale Punch and Lightning Impact, which I have no idea who this would help, but that's there I guess. But the week after that came another huge nerf to Gale, and this change was removing Champion's Worthless Hyper Armor and increasing its windup by 0.15 seconds. 0.15 seconds might not seem like a lot, but in a game like Deepwoken, this pretty much changed Champion's Worth from being something super high pressure and quick to something very reactable to pretty much any player. This was a super hard nerf and made the mantra much worse than it was before. The week after that came a targeting latency reduction for various mantras, including some Gale ones. Personally, I didn't really notice much from this change, but for people with worse connections, it could be pretty impactful. And the week after that came another small Wind Gun and Tornado buff, but in my opinion these weren't very noticeable, and they have definitely not shifted into the meta yet. However, in the week after that and the last update of November came a very big change for Gale, and that was the introduction of the Spectre Path. Although admittedly most people probably agreed that the Spectre Path was pretty underwhelming on release, it did provide a significant change to Gale's playstyle and another option for all Gale users. The introduction of a new path for Gale was pretty huge since Gale has not received a new path pretty much since its release. An entire new Gale path with 5 new talents is pretty sweet, so definitely appreciated by Gale users. This week also had some other additions for Gale too, such as the new mantra Windforge, and also some changes to the Curved Blade of Winds. The Curved Blade of Winds had its scaling change from 4 wind to 5 wind and also got 5% ship damage. This is a pretty small change, but better than nothing, still helpful for the Curved Blade of Wind users. And also one more thing in this update, Freezing White, which is a dual attunement talent for Gale and Frost, also got a buff. What Freezing White does is make Haunted Gale proc Chilled, which can also help proc other talents like St. J and that kind of stuff. The duration of Freezing White got almost doubled here, which actually could be pretty impactful, but so far has not changed much in the meta, as no top players have actually started using Freezing White after this change, but that option is always out there now. The following update and the first update of December also had a pretty wide variety of Gale changes as well. The first of which is that there were several card merges for Gale, which is pretty nice since it just means more free talents for all Gale users. Spectre Path also received a small buff, which is just nice for Spectre Path users, although really nothing too meta defining. A Word Without Song also got its requirements increased, which does hurt dual attunement Gale users with Gale as the off attunement. Windstep also got its requirements reduced, which helps dual attunement users, and also a memory leak was fixed with Spectre Path, so that's something nice, although I don't really know how much this memory leak impacted lag and that kind of stuff. One more thing that was actually shadow added in this update and for whatever reason left out of the patch notes was the Astral Wind nerf. In this update, Astral Wind's fastest possible wind speed with modifiers was nerfed from 0.3 seconds to 0.4. I have no idea why this was left out as this was a very significant nerf to Astral Wind, but I won't go into too much detail about it since I already made a video on this update which you can see here. The week after that had some semi-random balance changes as well to Gale. Hero Blades had their scaling reduced, which in my opinion was pretty fair since Hero Blades were just significantly better than their medium counterparts, for example. Windforge also got a buff, so it doesn't just lock you out of doing any actions during its casting. And also some other mantra combinations no longer put each other in cooldown, which is good if you go dual attunement, I suppose. And the week after that had even more changes, particularly towards Spectre Path. Spectre Path now recolors your Gale Breath to white, which admittedly does look pretty clean. Spectre Path also got a pretty notable buff, at least in PvP, with less drain when you have Phantom Step activated. And also a very important bug fix with the Spectre Bar. For a few weeks after Spectre's release, Spectre Path was just bugged and you couldn't see the Spectre Bar at all, which made it really hard to tell when you could actually use Spectre's abilities. But after this change, you can now use Spectre Path properly, so that is definitely a change that should have come sooner in my opinion, but better late than never. Overall, I think it's pretty fair to say that Gale has had quite a few small buffs, however a few very impactful nerfs as well. And also, Gale has received a pretty interesting side grade path. Let me know if you think that Gale has overall become stronger over the past 3 months, or weaker as an attunement. Subscribe for more Top Gale content, and see you in the next one.